The base hums with relentless energy. Soldiers move with purpose, their boots pounding the concrete as orders crack through the air. Yet, amidst this whirlwind, Emily stands still. 25 years old, clad in a crisp uniform that feels heavier than the fabric alone. It's the weight of expectation, of judgment, of something far harder to bear. Her brother's voice echoes inside her head, sharp, unforgiving. "You failed us." Those words sting more than any wound. They twist through her thoughts like a relentless tide, pulling her under. She looks around. Faces blur, some laughing, some shouting, some sharing quick, confident salutes. Camaraderie fills the space like oxygen. But Emily feels an island, isolated and alone. She clenches her fists, steadying her breath. Ahead lies a crucial meeting with her commanding officer. The moment could change everything, could redeem her or break her. The air tightens around her chest as doubt creeps in. Am I enough? The question gnaws deep. But then she remembers. The endless hours before dawn, the grueling drills that pushed her body beyond limits, the sacrifices, the missed birthdays, the lonely nights, the friends who disappeared from her life like fading stars. She recalls the sweat, the pain, the determination that forged her every step. Her mind flashes back to the early days of training, when every failure felt like proof that she didn't belong. When her brother's skepticism felt like a verdict, not a challenge. But somewhere in those dark moments, a fire was lit. Not just to prove him wrong, but to prove to herself that she was more than his harsh judgment. Around her, the military base does not pause. Soldiers rush by, voices sharp with orders, radios crackling with updates, engines revving in the distance. The hustle of military life is relentless, unforgiving. It demands perfection, loyalty, strength. And yet, in this chaos, Emily's isolation is profound. The very people who share her uniform seem miles away, their bonds forged in different fires. She stands on the edge of belonging, unsure if she's been accepted or condemned. Her heart pounds in rhythm with the base's frantic pulse. She feels the weight of every step she's taken, every sacrifice made, every moment she's been told she failed. But beneath the doubt, a fierce resolve is building. Because this meeting isn't just about orders or protocol, it's about respect. It's about reclaiming her name, her honor. It's about showing the brother who said she failed that she's not just part of this world. She belongs at its very top. As she straightens her posture, smoothing the creases in her uniform, she whispers to herself, "I will prove you wrong." Before we dive deeper, I want to know, where are you tuning in from? If Emily's story strikes a chord with you, make sure you're subscribed. Tomorrow, there's something truly special waiting, something that'll remind you why respect earned is never given lightly. The commanding officer, Emily, stepped into the meeting room, the weight of the moment pressing against her chest. Admiral Roberts was already there, his presence commanding, every line on his face a testament to battles fought and hard decisions made. A man known for his unyielding standards and fairness in equal measure. She straightened her uniform, trying to steady the quick beat of her heart. "Admiral," she said, voice steady but carrying the tremor of nerves beneath. He nodded once, a curt, measured motion. "Lieutenant, have a seat." Emily took the chair across from him, setting her notes on the table. The room fell silent, save for the faint hum of distant machinery outside the door. Roberts's eyes locked onto hers, sharp and searching, as if peeling back every layer to find the truth beneath. "Your operation plan," he began, voice low and deliberate. "Explain it to me. Convince me you've thought it through. Don't waste my time." She inhaled deeply, then launched into her briefing. "Sir, the objective is to secure the coastal facility before the enemy can reinforce their positions. We'll deploy the assault team at 0300 hours, using stealth insertion via submersible craft. The team will divide into 2 squads. Alpha will disable communications, while Bravo secures the main control room." Her tone was confident, her words crisp. She spoke with the precision drilled into her over years of training. Yet, beneath the surface, a flicker of doubt gnawed at her. The memory of her brother's voice echoed in her mind. You failed, Em. You'll never be good enough. She swallowed hard, trying to push the thought away, but it lingered, a shadow darkening her resolve. Roberts leaned forward. And what if the enemy anticipates your move? What contingencies do you have if the insertion team is compromised? Emily hesitated, a brief pause that felt like an eternity. Her fingers tapped the table, betraying the tension she tried to conceal. I've accounted for alternate extraction points, sir. If the insertion is compromised, the team will regroup at Delta Coordinate and await extraction. Additionally, we have electronic countermeasures ready to jam enemy communications to buy us time. His gaze didn't soften. He was testing her, pushing her to the edge. You seem uncertain. Is there something you're not telling me? She forced a steady breath. No, sir. I'm confident in the plan. But inside, the uncertainty tangled tighter. The pressure wasn't just from Roberts's scrutiny. It was from the weight of expectations. Her own, her family's, and most painfully, her brother's. He had never seen her as a success. To him, she was the one who fell short, the one who couldn't measure up. Roberts's eyes narrowed. Confidence without clarity is dangerous. If you hesitate, your team will hesitate. You must own this, Lieutenant. Not just the plan, but every possible outcome. Emily met his gaze, the challenge igniting something deep within her. She thought of the long nights studying, the grueling physical tests, the moments when she wanted to quit, but didn't. She thought of the silent promise she made to herself to prove her worth, not to anyone else, but to herself. Sir, she said, voice firmer now, I will rethink the approach. I'll incorporate additional intel analysis and coordinate with intelligence to predict enemy movements more accurately. I want to ensure our team has the maximum advantage. Roberts's stern expression softened just a fraction. Good, that's the mindset I expect. Pressure will come. From the mission, from your team, from yourself. But you must harness it. Discipline and camaraderie will carry you through. Emily nodded, feeling the tension ease, replaced by a newfound determination. The military life she'd chosen demanded everything from her. But it also gave her something no one else could. A family bound not by blood, but by respect and shared commitment. As she gathered her notes, Roberts stood and offered a firm salute. Lieutenant, he said, voice steady and respectful, I look forward to seeing you lead this operation. Emily returned the salute, the weight of his gesture settling over her like a mantle. Respect, SEAL Admiral, she whispered to herself, recalling the moment when her brother's officer had saluted her, not as a failed sibling, but as a leader of men. In that room, under the gaze of a commanding officer who demanded the best, she found a new kind of strength. Not just the strength to lead others, but the strength to finally believe in herself. A call to action. The message came unexpectedly. One moment, Emily was reviewing the notes she'd prepared for the upcoming briefing. The next, her commanding officer's voice cut through the quiet hum of the operations room. Admiral, we need you to lead the new recruits on the next training exercise. It starts in 20 minutes. Her heart skipped. Lead? Her? She barely had her bearings after the last drill. The weight of responsibility was sudden and heavy. She swallowed hard, fighting the whirlwind inside her mind. They must be joking. I'm not ready for this. But then, the words her brother had thrown at her months ago echoed back. You failed. You'll never match up to him. Her fingers clenched into fists. Not anymore. She let that sting fuel her, not as a wound, but as a fire. If she was going to prove anything, if she was going to rise, it had to start here, right now. Emily stood, squared her shoulders, and gathered her gear. The corridor felt longer than usual, the walls closing in with every step. But inside, a quiet determination grew. This was her moment to channel every doubt, every criticism into action. She recalled her own training, the long nights, the relentless drills, the moments when giving up seemed easier than pushing forward. She remembered the exhaustion, the fear, and the fragile hope that kept her moving. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about the recruits looking up to her, hungry for guidance. They were green, eager, yes, but inexperienced. She saw in their eyes the same uncertainty she'd once worn like armor. She addressed them with a steady voice, careful yet confident. Listen up. This exercise isn't just about physical endurance. It's about trust. Trust in yourselves and trust in each other. A few nods, some shifting but mostly attentive eyes. She felt a spark ignite inside her. This was leadership. She broke down the objectives clearly, knowing the importance of clarity when the stakes were high. Your mission is to navigate the obstacle course, but more importantly, to work as a unit. No one gets left behind, no excuses. As she spoke, she felt her nerves settle, replaced by a growing strength. Her instructions weren't just commands, they were a call to rise, for herself and for them. She recalled the moments when her brother's words had cut deep, how easily she could have let them define her. But here, leading this group, she was rewriting the narrative. The recruits moved out and she followed, observing closely. She corrected form, encouraged effort, and celebrated small victories. Each step forward was a testament to what she had learned and what she was becoming. At one point, a young recruit stumbled, frustration clear on his face. Emily stopped, knelt beside him, and said, "It's not failure unless you quit. Keep going." Her voice was firm but kind. The look he gave her was one of renewed resolve. In that moment, she saw more than just a recruit. She saw herself, years ago, grappling with doubt and criticism. As the exercise progressed, Emily's confidence grew. She found her rhythm, not just as a participant, but as a leader. She was no longer the one being judged. She was the one who set the standard. When the training ended, and the recruits gathered, breathless but proud, Emily stood tall. She looked at them, at the future of this force, and felt a surge of pride. Then came the moment that changed everything. Her brother's commanding officer approached, a young man with a sharp gaze and an unmistakable respect in his eyes. He stopped in front of her, snapped a crisp salute, and said, "Respect, SEAL Admiral." The words hit her like a tide, sweeping away years of doubt and pain. It wasn't just a salute, it was recognition, validation. Emily held the salute back, steady and sure. In that instant, she understood the journey she had taken, from the harsh judgment of her brother's words to the undeniable proof of her own strength. She had failed, yes, but she had also risen. And now she was leading, not in spite of her past, but because of it. Her voice, once uncertain, now carried the weight of experience and determination. This was no longer just a training exercise, it was a declaration. She was a leader, a mentor, an admiral. And she would never let anyone tell her she failed again. Fighting doubts. The whistle blew sharp and clear, slicing through the morning chill. Emily stood at the front, her uniform crisp, every crease a silent promise. This was it. The training exercise had begun. But the moment she opened her mouth to give commands, the cracks appeared. "Left flank, move! Now!" But the recruits hesitated. Confusion spread like wildfire. Some mirrored her movements late. Others whispered among themselves, unsure. The rhythm was broken. Orders were met with blank stares, fumbling feet, and a growing tide of frustration. Emily's jaw tightened. She could feel it. Her brother's voice, sharp and unforgiving, echoing in her mind, "You're not cut out for this. You're failing." Those words had haunted her for years. Today, they threatened to drown her confidence completely. "Focus! Eyes forward! Follow my lead!" she barked. Her voice, sharp and commanding, sliced through the air. But the recruits only stiffened. The weight of their uncertainty pressed down on her. She scanned the group. Young faces filled with doubt, some eager to prove themselves, others paralyzed by fear. She could see it in their eyes. They wanted to succeed, but they didn't know how. A knot formed in her stomach. She took a deep breath, the cold air filling her lungs, steadying her. The old way, strict orders, harsh criticism, wasn't working. The lessons from her brother's harsh words were clear in this moment. She needed to find a new way. "All right," she said quietly, lowering her tone. "Let's try something different." The recruits looked up, surprised by the softness. "I'm not here to tear you down," she continued. her voice steady but warm. "I'm here to help you build up, step by step. Every mistake is a chance to learn, not a reason to quit." The tension in the group shifted, ever so slightly. A recruit stumbled over an order. Instead of snapping, Emily nodded encouragingly. "Good try. Let's do it again, and this time, you'll get it even better." She moved among them, offering small corrections, nods of approval, and words of encouragement. The faces that had been tense began to relax. The group found a rhythm, faltering at first, but gradually growing stronger. "Remember, this isn't about being perfect right away," Emily said, her eyes meeting each recruit's. "It's about pushing through, even when it's hard, together." Slowly, the recruits started to respond, not just to her commands, but to the spirit she was fostering. Commands became clearer, movements sharper. The energy shifted from frustration to determination. Emily felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Her brother's words still echoed in her mind, but now they were met with a quiet defiance. "I am not failing. I am learning." One recruit, a young man with nervous eyes, finally executed a complex maneuver flawlessly. Emily's smile was genuine, her voice filled with pride. "That's it. Well done, you're getting there." The group cheered quietly, a camaraderie blossoming between them. They were no longer just a group of strangers fumbling through drills. They were a team. As the exercise came to a close, Emily gathered the recruits. She looked at the faces before her, tired but proud, challenged but unbroken. Her phone buzzed. A message from her brother. "Saw the report. Good job." Her heart skipped a beat. Later, standing at attention in the hallway, her brother's commanding officer approached her. His eyes held respect, a rare kind of acknowledgement that needed no words. He snapped a sharp salute. "Respect, SEAL Admiral." Emily stood tall. The doubts, the criticisms, the shadows of failure, they all faded beneath that salute. Because this was more than a title. It was a recognition of resilience, of strength, of a woman who refused to be defined by anyone else's judgment. She had fought her doubts and won. And now she was ready for whatever came next. The turning point. The days blurred together, each one a test of endurance, skill, and will. Emily stood among the ranks, her uniform crisp, her posture unyielding. The weight of every doubt, every whispered criticism, had settled into her bones. But now something was shifting. The fire inside her was no longer fueled by anger alone. It was burning with purpose. She watched the recruits push themselves harder than before. Their aches and exhaustion were etched deep, but so was their determination. And then there was Jake. Among the sea of focused faces, Jake stood out. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because he never gave up. When others faltered, he found a way forward. Emily saw in him the same relentless spirit that had carried her this far. "Jake, good form on the obstacle course. Keep that pace," she said during a break, her voice steady but encouraging. He looked up, eyes bright with respect. "Thank you, ma'am. Means a lot coming from you." She smiled, a rare softness breaking through the armor she'd built around herself. This was why she fought so hard. Not just for herself, but to lift others up. To prove that strength wasn't just about muscle or rank, it was about heart. Yet in the quiet moments, the echo of her brother's words haunted her. "You're failing, Emily. Not enough. You're never enough." Those words had cut deep. They had driven her to push past every limit, but they also planted a seed of doubt that refused to die. Now, as she watched the recruits thrive, a flicker of accomplishment warmed her chest. Maybe she was making a difference. Maybe she was enough. Her phone vibrated sharply against her side. The screen flashed a name she hadn't wanted to see, her brother. She hesitated. Then, with a steadying breath, she answered. "Emily, what the hell are you doing?" His voice was sharp, biting through the fatigue. "This isn't how you lead. You're too soft. You're letting them slack off. You're failing." She closed her eyes, the words crashing over her like cold waves. "I'm trying," she said quietly. "Trying? That's not good enough. You don't get to try. You get to succeed. Or you get out." The line went silent for a moment. Then he added, "You'll never be what I am. You'll never earn respect." The call ended before she could respond. The silence in the room grew heavy. Emily's hands clenched into fists. The old ache of inadequacy surged again, threatening to undo her. But this time she let it fuel her instead of breaking her. "I will earn that respect. Not from you, but from those who matter." The next day, Emily stood in front of the recruits, her voice clear and resolute. "This isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about proving yourself right. You are stronger than your doubts. You are capable of more than you think. And I am here to make sure you see that." Jake caught her eye and nodded. In that moment, she knew she wasn't alone. Weeks passed. The training grew tougher. Yet, Emily's confidence only deepened. She learned to trust her instincts, to lead with both strength and compassion. And slowly, the recruits transformed. Then came the day of the final exercise. The entire unit assembled, every eye on the line of recruits, ready to demonstrate what they had learned. Emily stood at the edge, heart pounding. This was the moment she had fought for, not to silence her brother's voice, but to find her own. Jake moved with precision and grit, executing every command flawlessly. When the exercise ended, the commanding officer approached Emily. He paused, then reached out and saluted. "Respect, SEAL Admiral," he said with a nod. The room stilled. The weight of that salute, those words, settled into Emily's soul like a lifeline. She caught her breath, the years of struggle and doubt flooding through her. Her brother's voice, loud and dismissive, echoed one last time in her mind before fading away. Because here, in this moment, she had succeeded, not just in the eyes of others, but in her own. She returned the salute, her voice steady. "Thank you, sir." And for the first time, she felt the truth of it. She was enough. More than enough. She was a leader, a warrior, a SEAL Admiral. Building trust. The night was darker than any Emily had faced before. The sky swallowed the stars, and the only light came from the dim glow of their handheld devices. It was the perfect setting for the night navigation exercise she had planned, a challenge meant to test not just their skills, but their resolve. Emily's heart beat steadily beneath her uniform. Every recruit looked to her for direction, their eyes searching for confidence. She could feel their silent question. Can she lead us through this? The weight of that trust pressed on her like the heavy night air. She remembered her brother's words from weeks ago, sharp and cutting. "You failed. You'll never be the leader I expected." Those words haunted her still. But tonight wasn't about proving him right or wrong. Tonight was about proving to them, her team, that she was more than just another soldier. She was their leader. "Stay close," she whispered, voice low but firm. "Trust your compass and trust me, we move as one." The forest around them was alive with unfamiliar sounds, twigs snapping underfoot, distant calls of night creatures, the rustling of leaves in the breeze. Each step forward felt like stepping further into the unknown. But Emily moved with purpose, her every motion deliberate, her focus sharp. Suddenly, a muffled thud broke the rhythm of their march. A recruit stumbled, catching a root hidden in the shadows. A sharp cry pierced the night. Emily stopped instantly. "Report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. "I'm fine," the recruit gasped, but the pain was clear in his voice. Emily moved to his side quickly, kneeling down. "Where does it hurt?" "Ankle twisted, I think." Her mind raced. They were miles from base camp, no easy way back in the dark. Every second counted. She glanced back at the others. Fear flickered in their eyes. This was the moment they needed her most. "Listen to me," Emily said, voice calm but commanding. "We're going to get through this. I need 2 of you to stay with him. The rest of us will continue the exercise and mark our path. We'll circle back with support. Understood?" A chorus of affirmatives answered her. She helped the recruit to a sitting position, carefully examining his ankle. Swelling had already begun. The situation was serious but manageable. Emily radioed in their status and requested immediate medical evacuation. Then she turned to the group. This isn't just about navigation anymore. It's about taking care of each other. That's what leadership looks like. The recruits nodded, a new resolve settling over them. Emily could see it in their eyes. The shift from uncertainty to trust. They believed in her. She stayed by the injured recruit's side, offering words of encouragement and steady hands. The others resumed their positions, following her carefully laid plans. Their movements were smoother now, more confident. The night hadn't gotten easier, but together they were stronger. As the evacuation team arrived, Emily stood, her uniform dirtied and torn in places, but her posture unwavering. The recruits gathered around her, not as peers, but as followers. They looked at her with respect, their earlier doubts replaced by admiration. One of the recruits, the one who had stumbled, looked up at her and said quietly, "Thank you, ma'am. You kept us safe." Emily's chest swelled with pride. This was the moment she had been fighting for, not to silence her brother's voice, but to earn the respect of those she led. In the days that followed, word of her leadership spread, but nothing prepared her for what came next. Her brother's commanding officer approached her after a briefing. The man was stern, battle-hardened, and known for his no-nonsense demeanor. He looked Emily squarely in the eye and offered a crisp salute. "Respect, SEAL Admiral," he said. The title wasn't hers yet, but the respect behind it was real. It was recognition of her strength, her resolve, and her ability to lead when it mattered most. Emily inhaled deeply. The night of shadows had passed. What remained was a bond forged in trust, responsibility, and unwavering leadership. Her brother's words no longer held power over her. Tonight, she had proven something far greater. That true leadership earns respect not through birthright or expectation, but through action and heart. And in that respect, Emily had succeeded. Unexpected recognition. The night had been long. The cold bit through the fabric of her uniform, but Emily barely noticed. Her mind was sharp, her senses alert. She had led the team through the dense darkness, guided by the faint glow of the moon and the steady rhythm of her own breathing. Every step measured, every decision calculated, every command clear and unwavering. Now, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the exercise was over. The recruits gathered, exhausted but triumphant. The tension that had gripped them all night dissolved into laughter, chatter, and quiet pride. Emily stood among them, feeling something she hadn't quite allowed herself to feel before: belonging. Then, from the edge of the group, a sharp voice called out, cutting through the morning air. "Admiral Roberts wants to see you, Lieutenant." Emily's heart skipped. Admiral Roberts, the man who had been watching the entire night, the man whose opinion mattered more than any other. She straightened her posture, every muscle tensing and relaxing like a finely tuned instrument. She walked toward him, the eyes of her fellow recruits following her every move. The Admiral looked at her with a steady gaze, one that weighed and measured but did not judge hastily. "Lieutenant," he said quietly, "I saw your leadership out there. Your navigation was precise. Your calm under pressure was remarkable." Emily blinked, unsure if she had heard him right. Praise from Admiral Roberts was rare and usually reserved for the exceptional. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. "Thank you, sir." He nodded once and then, with deliberate respect, brought his hand to his forehead in a sharp salute. "Respect, SEAL Admiral," he said, his tone carrying the weight of genuine admiration. The words hit her like a wave. Respect, not just acknowledgement, but respect. From an officer she had long seen as the embodiment of excellence. From a man who represented everything she aspired to be. She returned the salute, her heart pounding. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The noise of the group faded, the chatter dimmed, and all that remained was the connection between two warriors who understood the cost of commitment. Around her, the recruits began to cheer, not loudly, but enough to let her know she was no longer just one of them. She was a leader, a trusted leader. As the celebration continued, Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. She allowed herself a small smile. This was the moment she had worked for, the moment when the doubt that had shadowed her since she enlisted finally began to lift. But even in this moment of triumph, a shadow lingered. The voice of her brother echoed in her mind, sharp, cutting, relentless. "You failed," he had said. "You'll never make it. You're not good enough." Those words had haunted her. They had driven her harder, yes, but they had also planted seeds of doubt, whispering that no matter how much she achieved, it would never be enough. She looked away from the group, toward the distant horizon where the sun now burned away the last vestiges of night. She thought about the long conversations with herself, the silent battles waged in her mind after every failure, every setback. Could she ever truly silence that voice? Could she ever escape the shadow of her brother's judgment? But then she glanced back at Admiral Roberts, still standing firm and solid, a symbol of respect and authority. And she thought about the salute, the way his fingers had touched his forehead, the way his eyes had held hers with respect and belief. Maybe, just maybe, she was rewriting the story, not just for herself, but for the family that had doubted her, for the brother who had said she failed. The recruits rallied around her, their voices filling the air with renewed energy. They spoke of the night's challenges, of the mistakes made and lessons learned. Emily listened, absorbing their words, feeling the bond grow stronger. This was her team now, her family. She realized that respect was not given freely. It was earned, moment by moment, decision by decision. And tonight, she had earned it. Yet the fight inside her was far from over. The voice of self-doubt would return. The expectations of her brother would not vanish with a single salute. But for the first time, Emily felt ready to face it, to confront the ghosts of her past with the strength of her present. The Admiral's words echoed in her mind, steady and firm. "Respect, SEAL Admiral." Those words became a mantra, a promise, a challenge. She would carry that respect forward, not as a shield against doubt, but as a beacon lighting the path ahead. Because in the end, it wasn't about proving her brother wrong. It was about proving to herself that she could lead, that she could belong, that she could rise. And as the morning light bathed the training ground in gold, Emily stood taller than she ever had before. She was no longer just the girl who had been told she failed. She was the SEAL Admiral's respect. And that was everything, facing the past. The moment she saw him, Emily's heart clenched. Her brother, unannounced, standing tall and stern at the edge of the base. The uniform she wore, a symbol of her hard-fought progress, felt heavier beneath his gaze. The air between them crackled with years of unspoken words. She hadn't expected this visit. He hadn't called ahead. This was a confrontation long overdue. He looked her up and down, eyes narrowing. "So this is what you've become," he said, voice low but sharp. "A SEAL Admiral. I don't know what you think you're proving here." Emily held her posture steady. The years of training, sacrifice, and leadership coursed through her veins. She was no longer the uncertain girl he remembered. "I'm leading, with purpose," she replied. "Not just for myself, but for every person under my command." He scoffed. "Purpose? You call this leadership? You left everything behind, chasing some impossible dream. You think this uniform means respect? You failed, Emily. You always did." That word hit harder than any physical blow. Failed. But Emily refused to shrink. "I didn't fail. I fought. I earned every stripe on this uniform." His eyes flashed with frustration. "You think you're better than me now? Because you wear a uniform? Because you gave up family for a title?" Her voice grew firmer. "It's not about titles. It's about responsibility, about making a difference where it counts. I'm not the same person you knew. I'm stronger." He took a step closer, his tone almost pleading now. "I just wanted you to be the person I thought you'd be, not this." He gestured vaguely at the base, the uniform, the life she'd chosen. Emily's breath caught. The weight of his expectations, the pressure to fit into his mold, had haunted her for years. But now she saw it clearly. His doubt wasn't just about her career. It was about fear. Fear that she was slipping away, becoming someone unreachable. "I'm still me," she said quietly. "Maybe even more myself than ever before. This life is who I am, and I'm proud of it." He looked away, conflicted, his anger softening into something more vulnerable. They stood there, two siblings caught between past hurts and present realities. Then the moment shifted. From behind Emily, a junior officer approached, crisp and respectful. Without hesitation, the officer snapped a salute, eyes steady. "Respect, SEAL Admiral." Emily's brother turned sharply, watching the exchange. The weight of that salute settled between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of her authority, her achievements. He swallowed hard, the lines of doubt and skepticism beginning to fade from his face. Maybe I judged you too quickly." Emily nodded, a small, genuine smile breaking through. "It's not about your judgment, it's about what I've earned." The tension didn't vanish, but something changed. The distance between them lessened. For the first time, Emily felt the space to breathe, to accept that her worth wasn't tied to his approval. She realized then that leadership wasn't just about command. It was about standing firm in who she was, even when those closest to her doubted. Her brother's visit, fraught with challenge and conflict, became a turning point. A moment where past wounds surfaced, only to begin healing. Emily straightened her shoulders, the uniform no longer just fabric but a shield and a banner. The banner of her journey, her resilience. "No more shadows," she said softly, more to herself than to him. "I'm done living in doubt." Her brother nodded, a silent truce forming. The respect in his eyes was no longer questioned, it was earned. And as the officer's salute lingered in the air, Emily stepped forward, ready to lead, unshaken and unapologetic. This was her path, her legacy. And she would walk it with her head held high. A salute of respect. The air was electric with anticipation. Rows of officers stood at attention, their uniforms crisp, their faces solemn. Emily felt the weight of every gaze fixed upon her. Today was no ordinary day. It was the day her leadership, her resolve, her very worth as an officer would be laid bare to all who had doubted her. She stood tall, her chest swelling with a pride that felt both unfamiliar and deeply earned. The commendation was more than just a piece of paper, it was a symbol. A symbol of countless hours spent pushing through exhaustion, of decisions made in the crucible of pressure, of battles fought not against enemies, but against doubt, both from within and from those closest to her. Her mind flashed back to the harsh words she'd heard not long ago, words that cut deeper than any physical wound. "You failed." Her brother's voice echoed in her memory, firm, unyielding, a verdict that had threatened to shatter her. She had tried to explain, to prove herself, but his skepticism lingered like a shadow. That moment had been one of the darkest in her life. To have your own blood say you weren't enough, there is no pain quite like it. But here she was now, standing in front of the very people who mattered most in her career. The commanding officers, her peers, those who had trained alongside her, and most importantly, those who had witnessed the strength she'd forged through adversity. The ceremony began with quiet reverence. The commanding officer stepped forward, voice steady. "Today, we recognize an officer whose leadership under pressure has set a new standard. During the recent training exercises, her strategic insight, unwavering resolve, and ability to inspire her team led to outcomes that exceeded every expectation." Emily's heart pounded in rhythm with the applause that followed. She felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of relief and validation. This was the moment she had fought for, not just to prove others wrong, but to prove to herself that she was capable, that she belonged. Then came the moment that would forever redefine everything. Admiral Roberts, a figure towering in both rank and respect, stepped forward. His presence commanded silence. The room held its breath. With deliberate precision, he executed a sharp salute, directed not at the podium, not at the flag, but at Emily herself. "Respect, SEAL Admiral," he said aloud, his voice carrying across the hall. The words struck like thunder. Emily's eyes locked with those of her brother, standing stoic among the ranks. For a moment, his expression faltered, an unspoken acknowledgement passing between them. The brother who once declared her failure now witnessed the respect she commanded from one of the highest officers in their service. That salute was more than protocol. It was a public declaration, an undeniable statement that Emily had earned her place, her rank, and her honor. The hall erupted in applause. Emily's peers, once uncertain, now looked at her with new eyes. Eyes that saw a leader, a trailblazer, a woman whose strength could not be denied. In that instant, Emily felt the barriers within her life begin to crumble. The doubts, the criticisms, the invisible walls of expectation, they all shattered beneath the weight of respect. Her brother stepped forward, his voice low but sincere. "I was wrong," he admitted. "I see it now. You didn't fail, you led." Emily nodded, a soft smile breaking through the armor of her uniform. The recognition she had longed for was no longer a distant hope, but a living reality. This salute, this moment of honor, marked not only a milestone in her career, but also a profound evolution in her identity. She was no longer simply a young officer striving to prove herself. She was a SEAL Admiral, respected, recognized, and ready to lead. As the ceremony closed, Emily stood with renewed purpose. The path ahead was still challenging, still fraught with tests and trials. But now, she walked it with the certainty that comes from being seen, truly seen, for who she was and all she had achieved. And in the knowing glance shared with her brother, she found something greater than mere acknowledgement. She found respect. Respect earned through perseverance. Respect forged in the heat of battle. Respect given freely, finally, between siblings. The salute was more than a gesture. It was a turning point. A beacon lighting the way forward, not just for Emily, but for anyone who had ever been told they failed. Because sometimes, all it takes is one moment of recognition to rewrite a story, one salute to transform doubt into honor, one voice to say what so many had not dared to admit. Respect, SEAL Admiral. Reconciliation. The ceremony had ended, but the air still buzzed with quiet pride and unspoken emotions. Emily stood tall in her uniform, the weight of her accomplishments settling over her like a second skin. Her brother approached, his steps hesitant at first, then steady. The man who once doubted her now looked at her with something new, something deeper. He cleared his throat, voice low but sincere. "I have to be honest. When you first told me you wanted to join the military, I thought you were setting yourself up for failure." Emily listened, her eyes steady, waiting for him to say more. "I was scared," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "Scared you wouldn't make it. Scared you'd get hurt. And, yeah, maybe I doubted you could handle the pressure. I didn't see how you could be one of the best, let alone a SEAL Admiral." Emily's lips twitched into a small smile. "You weren't the only one who doubted. I doubted myself more times than I can count." She took a deep breath, her voice quiet but firm. "When I first walked into boot camp, I was the girl everyone thought would break. I was tired, overwhelmed, and yes, sometimes I wanted to quit. But every time I did, I remembered why I started. Not just to prove anyone else wrong, but to prove to myself that I belonged here." Quote. Her brother's eyes softened, the tension between them easing. "I never understood that part. I thought it was about toughness, about physical strength alone." Emily shook her head gently. "It's more than that. It's about heart, grit, the kind of strength you don't always see. I had to transform, not just my body, but my mind. I had to learn to trust myself, to push past fear and doubt. It wasn't easy, but every challenge, every obstacle made me stronger." He looked down for a moment, nodding slowly. "I saw that today, when you were saluted as SEAL Admiral. I saw the respect those officers had for you. I saw the respect you earned." Emily's voice softened with gratitude. That salute wasn't just for the rank or the uniform. It was for the years of work behind it. The sacrifices, the failures, the moments I almost gave up. And for the family who stood behind me, even when they didn't understand. Her brother's eyes met hers, shimmering with something new. Pride, yes, but also acceptance. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I was so caught up in my fears that I forgot to believe in you, but I do now." Emily smiled, a genuine warmth spreading through her. "That means more than you know, because no matter what, family is everything. Having your support, it made all the difference." He reached out, clasping her shoulder firmly. "You earned this, Emily. You earned every bit of it. And I'm proud. Proud of the person you've become. Proud to call you my sister." Her heart swelled with emotion. "Thank you. That means the world to me." They stood there for a moment, the space between them filled with understanding. The barriers of doubt and fear had fallen away, replaced by a bond stronger than ever. "My respect for you," he said quietly. "It's more than just brotherly love now. It's admiration. You showed me what true courage looks like." Emily nodded, eyes glistening. "And you showed me the power of forgiveness and belief. We both grew through this." He smiled, a relief washing over his face. "From now on, I'm in your corner. For everything. No more doubts." She laughed softly, the sound light and free. "Good, because I'm just getting started." Their conversation lingered in the air, a testament to the journey they had traveled together, from skepticism and fear to trust and respect. It was a reminder that sometimes the greatest victories aren't just on the battlefield, but in the hearts of those who stand beside us. Emily's uniform gleamed under the fading light, a symbol not just of rank, but of resilience. Her brother's salute earlier had been the moment everything changed. "Respect, SEAL Admiral," he had said, words that echoed in her mind, a powerful acknowledgement of all she had overcome. Now standing face to face, those words felt even more real. Because she had failed, and then she had risen. Because he had doubted, and then he had learned to believe. Because family isn't just about blood. It's about standing together, growing together, and finding strength in one another. Emily took a step closer, voice steady and filled with hope. "Whatever comes next, we face it together. No more doubts, just respect." Her brother nodded, a smile breaking through any remaining shadows. Together. In that moment, the past fell away. The failures, the fears, they no longer defined them. Instead, they stood united, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Because sometimes, the greatest battle is the one fought within, and the most powerful victory is reconciliation. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily's heart was full, not just as a SEAL Admiral, but as a sister who had finally earned her brother's respect and love. Finding her voice, she stood tall, the weight of the uniform settling on her shoulders like a promise she was ready to keep. The same brother who once told her she had failed was now standing beside her, his eyes reflecting something new, a quiet pride, a respect earned not through words but through relentless action. Emily's journey had been anything but easy. Every step forward was a battle against doubt, her own, and the echoes of others. But now, with her brother's support, she found herself stepping into a role she had long feared, that of a leader. It wasn't about commanding authority or giving orders with an iron fist. It was about connection. About showing those who followed that the path, no matter how steep, was climbable. She began to mentor new recruits, those fresh faces filled with the same uncertainty she once carried. "I know how it feels to question if you're enough," she would say, her voice steady but warm. "To wonder if the world expects more than you can give. But what I've learned is this: your story, your struggle, is your strength. It's what makes you a leader." Her office became a sanctuary for those struggling to find their place. Recruits would come in, hesitant at first, sharing fears about failure, about not measuring up. And Emily listened. She shared her own scars, the nights she doubted herself, the moments when her brother's words stung sharper than any critic's. But she also shared the turning point, the moment when her brother's officer saluted her with genuine respect and said, "Respect, SEAL Admiral." In that instant, all those years of struggle crystallized into something undeniable. She was no longer defined by failure but by resilience. That salute wasn't just a formality. It was a recognition of her transformation, a public acknowledgement that leadership isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance. Emily's story began to ripple through the ranks. She wasn't just a leader, she was a symbol, a living testament to what it means to rise above doubt and redefine strength. Recruits started to see leadership not as a distant ideal, but as something attainable. They saw someone who had walked through fire and emerged not just unscathed but empowered to light the way for others. And with every conversation, every shared moment, Emily's voice grew stronger. She taught them that leadership is not a title handed down. It's earned in the quiet moments of vulnerability and the fierce moments of courage. "You don't have to be perfect," she'd say. "You just have to be willing to stand up." every single time you fall. Her commitment extended beyond the training grounds. She advocated for programs that supported mental health and resilience, knowing firsthand how critical it was to nurture both body and mind. She pushed for spaces where voices could be heard without fear, where doubts could be confronted with compassion. In time, the recruits she mentored began to mirror her spirit. They stepped forward with newfound confidence, carrying with them the lessons of a leader who had once been told she failed but refused to accept it as her story. Emily watched this transformation unfold and felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey wasn't just about her own success. It was about opening doors for those who would follow. It was about creating a legacy of strength built on honesty and empathy. One day, as she walked through the training grounds, a young recruit approached her, eyes bright but unsure. "Admiral," the recruit said, "how did you find your voice?" Emily smiled, the memory of that pivotal salute fresh in her mind. "I found it when I realized that my voice mattered, not because it was perfect, but because it was mine. When I stopped trying to fit someone else's expectations and started embracing my own story." She paused, letting the words settle. "And when my brother's officer saluted me, it wasn't just respect for a rank. It was respect for a journey. For every time I stood up after falling. For every doubt I silenced with action." The recruit nodded, inspired not just by the words but by the courage behind them. Emily knew then her role was clear: to keep lifting others, to keep being that voice for those who felt lost in the noise of doubt. Her leadership was no longer defined by the battles she fought alone, but by the strength she cultivated in others. She was shaping a new generation, one that understood that failure is not an end, but a chapter in a larger story of perseverance. And with every salute, every word of encouragement, every shared story, Emily rewrote what it meant to be a leader in the military. Not just a commander of men and women, but a mentor, a guide, a beacon of hope. Her brother's words, once so heavy, now echoed differently. They no longer marked a defeat, but a challenge met and surpassed. Because leadership isn't just about the rank worn on your chest. It's about the courage to rise, to inspire, and to lead with heart. "Respect SEAL Admiral," that salute had said, and from that moment on, Emily lived those words every day. She had found her voice, and with it, she was changing everything. The legacy of leadership. She stands tall, the weight of her uniform familiar now, an armor she's earned through countless battles, not just in combat, but within herself. Emily's eyes scanned the room filled with young faces, eager and uncertain, hungry for guidance. This is her moment, not just as a leader, but as a messenger of truth. "Leadership," she begins, "is never about the insignia on your chest or the rank on your collar. It's about the people beside you, the ones you lift up when they stumble. It's about connection, compassion, understanding." She pauses, letting her words settle among the crowd. The memory of her brother's voice echoes in her mind. "You failed." Those words had cut deeper than any criticism from a stranger. But here she is, not because she ignored those words, but because she used them as fuel. "You see," she continues, "when my brother said I failed, I believed him for a moment. I thought I had let everyone down. My team, my family, myself. But then, in a moment I never expected, one of his officers saluted me and said, 'Respect, SEAL Admiral.'" The room is silent now, hanging on every syllable. That salute was more than a gesture. It was an acknowledgement of perseverance, of growth, of breaking barriers. It wasn't just respect for a rank. It was respect for a journey. Emily's voice softens. "I realized then that leadership isn't about never failing. It's about how you rise after you fall. It's about showing up when the world doubts you. It's about standing so firmly in your truth that others find their footing beside you." She looks out at the faces again, searching for the spark she once needed. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt was a stepping stone. Not just for me, but for all of us who dare to lead differently. We owe it to ourselves, and to those who follow, to lead with courage and heart. Her story is no longer just hers. It's a beacon. So when you face your own moments of failure, remember this: respect is earned in the crucible of challenge. And sometimes, the loudest respect comes from the most unexpected places. A quiet murmur rises in the room, a collective understanding taking root. Emily smiles, knowing this is more than a speech, it's a legacy. Lead not because you have to, but because you care, because connection matters, because compassion creates strength. She straightens, feeling the weight of the salute that once changed everything. And if ever you doubt your path, remember, my brother said I failed until his officer saluted me. That moment defined my journey. It can define yours too. Her voice carries the unshakable truth of someone who's walked through fire and emerged not just intact, but transformed. Respect, after all, is not given freely. It is earned through resilience, through authenticity, through the courage to lead with your whole self. The room fills with applause, but Emily knows the real victory isn't in the noise. It's in the quiet resolve she sees in those young faces, the promise of leaders yet to come. She steps down, not as a commander who demands obedience, but as a leader who inspires belief. Because true leadership isn't about authority, it's about heart. A new beginning. Emily stood tall, the weight of her uniform, a quiet reminder of the journey she had endured. The fabric hugged her shoulders like a second skin, each medal and insignia telling a story. Stories of battles fought, obstacles overcome, and nights spent questioning if she would ever belong. But now, as she looked out across the horizon, there was no doubt. She was here. She had arrived. Her brother's voice echoed in her mind, sharp, bitter, and piercing. You failed. You'll never make it. Those words had once felt like chains, dragging her down into a pit of doubt. He had watched her struggle, saw her stumble, and declared defeat before she could even rise. But today, everything had changed. Respect, SEAL Admiral. The words had come from his own officer, crisp and unwavering. A salute that cut through years of disbelief and judgment. The same brother who once doubted her now stood beside her, silent but proud. An unspoken acknowledgement passing between them. The boy who called her failure had witnessed her triumph, and in that moment, he understood. Emily's breath caught, not from exhaustion, but from the sheer magnitude of what she had become. She was no longer the girl shadowed by disappointment. She was a leader, a warrior, a symbol of resilience. The path had been anything but easy. Every step forward had been met with resistance, every victory hard-earned. But she had refused to surrender. Her eyes met her brother's, searching for the man behind the boy she once knew. There was a flicker there, a spark of respect, of acceptance. It was fragile but real, and it was enough. Together, they faced the future. Not as adversaries, but as family. Not as rivals, but as allies. The battles ahead were unknown, the challenges unpredictable. But Emily was ready. She carried within her the strength of every setback, the lessons of every failure, and the fire of every victory. She took a deep breath, feeling the steady beat of her heart, a rhythm of purpose and determination. With her brother by her side, she stepped forward into the new mission that awaited. Every stride was a declaration. She would lead with courage, with honor, and with unwavering resolve. The weight of the past no longer held her back. Instead, it propelled her forward. She embodied the spirit of resilience, undaunted by doubt, unshaken by fear. Each challenge was an opportunity to grow, to inspire, to lead. Her fellow soldiers looked to her not just as a commander, but as a beacon, a reminder that strength comes from perseverance, and leadership is forged in the fires of adversity. Emily had become more than they expected, and more than she ever imagined possible. Her brother's salute had been a turning point, but it was the journey that brought her here that defined her true victory. She had silenced the harshest critic, the voice inside her own mind that whispered, "You can't." Now, that voice was drowned out by the sound of her own footsteps, steady and sure. As she moved forward, Emily carried with her the support of those who believed in her, the family who healed, the comrades who stood beside her, and the legacy she was building. This was not just a new beginning, it was a promise. A promise to never stop striving, to never settle for less, to lead with integrity and heart. The future was hers to shape, and she was ready. Respect SEAL Admiral. Those words would echo in her mind forever, not as a reminder of past doubts, but as a testament to how far she had come. Emily smiled, the weight on her shoulders feeling lighter than ever before, because she knew now, failure was never the end. It was just the beginning of something greater. She stepped forward, into the light, into her destiny,